So I was wondering if you could help us just by level setting at VivaKi. Fraud is an all-encompassing term, right? It's kind of generic. Tell me how you define it and what the elements of fraud are in regards to what your agenda is in combating it.
Sure. I would talk about fraud in a couple of different buckets. There's certainly the non-human traffic, so we're talking about bots, malicious crawlers. We're also talking about the way that we look at it is also the real fraud as it's defined. Publishers trying to actually defraud buyers by saying that they're serving in, I'm on the video side, so serving into a certain size player, but really it's a 300 by 250 in a banner. So that's another type of fraud. And then I think a layer that we've touched on as well is the viewability factor. It's the same sort of piece where the publisher may say it's above the fold, you're targeting above the fold, but really it's below the fold. So those are kind of the buckets that we put it in.
Okay, so let's start with the low-hanging fruit, which is the bad behavior. That's the conscious with malice intent of defrauding a prospective advertiser or agency, right? Sure. I mean, so first of all, is that really?
Yeah.
Is that really the state of our business right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that happening through direct buying? Like on what platform is that acquisition occurring?
Sure, so I'm on the trading desk side of things, so it's not a direct relationship most of the time. So a lot of the, when you look at the stats for whether it's non-human traffic or it is this fraud piece, you're getting the high percentages within the exchanges and the ad networks. And that's what we're buying. And so we certainly have to take a more concerted approach to how we're vetting that inventory.
Okay, so you may or may not want to answer this question, but I just want a perspective here. So when we talk about the ad network inventory that you're acquiring, that let's say let's just put our hat on 30%. That's the number that's been floating around. Say 30% is not in view or delivering or fraudulent or non-human traffic. What's that eCPM right now in that inventory? If you had to just bucket that and give me a mean, what would you say that's coming in at?
Well, I think when you combine the bot traffic, which I think in the exchanges is around 20-ish% on the video side, displays obviously a little bit higher. And when we're talking about viewability, as Vindico has reported, it's upwards of past 50%. When you're separating those two, it's easier to talk about because it's hard to tell what the overlap is.
Right.
But so we're talking about at least double CPMs. So if the average CPMs are $10 to $15, we're talking about 20 to 30. So you're looking at your sort of publisher direct kind of CPMs in an open marketplace.
That makes me a little nauseous, I can't lie. Okay, so let's go with the long tail. What's the impact? What happens to CPMs as we start to get smarter about policing and sort of ensuring viewability, delivery, it's human eyeball that's actually seen it? What, does obviously the good inventory's value is going to increase, right? But overall, let's stick into video. What's the value of video inventory overall? What's going to change there?
Well, I do think that in the tier 2, so your sort of owned and operated online portals, the CPMs are going to go up because, but only to an extent, because a lot of that is still being sold up front or is being sold out pretty quickly. So not a lot of that is in the open marketplace. When we're talking about tier 3, I think half of that is going to go away, essentially, because what's making up that tier 3 is where we're getting a lot of the malicious, traffic.
Right.
I think, the other thing is I don't know that YouTube's going to necessarily be impacted. They obviously have the most scale, but they also, they don't really play by the same rules as far as opening it up to be measured for viewability, right? It's kind of inherent that it's supposed to be viewable because of the size of the player.
Mm-hmm. Remind me to come full circle when we get to Jay on the panel, please.
So I think anyone well, I guess not everyone will say that CPMs are going to go up. I happen to believe that there will be an uptick to an extent. I think averages can only go up when people start to ask for in-view CPMs.
Okay, so let me ask the question a different way. CPMs are going to go up overall. what will happen to gross spend?
I think gross spend is going to continue to go up as well. I think it's, I do presentations all the time for our agencies, and one thing that I, put on the screen is this, the kind of adoption of buying from DSPs and ad exchanges, which from 2011 to 2012 went up. From 2012 to 2013, the shift went back to direct deals. My theory, and I'm sure somebody out there can prove this with actual data, but my theory is that there was
your confidence.
There was a pullback because of the confidence level with what they were buying and the transparency of that. And I think, with more confidence being built by the tools that we now have in our hands to see what's actually going on and optimize out of the bad placements, we'll see more investment coming back.
So what has this done overall for digital? I mean, what's the taste in the mouth of advertisers and brands that have been, especially about video, cannibalizing other channel dollars, moving money aggressively, doubling down on programmatic, everything? Now that there's sort of this big aha moment, has that changed perception or bullishness?
Honestly, I don't know that there's been a ubiquitous aha moment across the agencies.
Well, I think the Wall Street Journal article was so alarmist and so dramatic, right? That I think I guess that's what was, to me, that was a turning point in some regards, right?
Yeah, and it absolutely was a little sensational, certainly, because when you decouple, as Josh was saying earlier, you have to decouple what we're talking about in the data. If only 40% of traffic is actually measurable for viewability, what's going on with the other 60%? So yeah, a lot of the numbers are inflated because you're only taking a subset to begin with. But I think that, on the agency side, it's the understanding now is that you have to employ some kind of third-party audit. So they understand this, they get this, they're adopting tools like Attricity through Vendico. They're utilizing integral ad science, double verify, all of these guys, and really taking a look at the quality of the inventory. It's a difficult conversation for the agencies to have with their clients, however, about, well, we've been buying this previously and now the actual marketplace value is 10 times or whatever it will be. And so, I think it's still an education process.
Take me through, but take me down a further path of that conversation. So, I mean, is the sort of the monitoring and policing sort of overall with the different partners like Vendico, integral ad science, et cetera, is that looked at as a CPM lift, just like i.e. data targeting would be an incremental CPM? Is it looked at as a cost of sale or a cost of business rather, just sort of overall as a expense on the line of the P&L? I mean, what's the perception? Does it vary by account? How do advertisers actually perceive that?
Well, I think originally they're going to get it bonus, or they're going to get it at no cost, just for the adoption factor of it, just to kind of see what's going on. They're not really going to have a CPM impact, just for employing these third-party tools.
Is that because they're going to be make goods as a result of having caught ad networks and publishers with their knickers around their ankles, or is that because that they're going to throw it in as a value add as you would, i.e. creative development of a rich media asset?
Yeah, I think originally it's going to be kind of an added value, again, just to gain adoption, to get them hooked on that data.
Okay.
But then it will come at a small incremental cost, I believe. However, a lot of the DSPs that we're buying from are, knowing that no one entity can sort of solve for it all, are employing these third parties and integrating with these third parties as well. So then it becomes baked into the service of the DSP, which, it just goes into your fees there. So it's not really, again, pushing up the CPMs necessarily.